Okay, so today we discuss about optical absorption. So to understand optical absorption, again we will have to go back to this particular figure. Yesterday, this one we discussed uh, the absorption of an electromagnetic radiation by a semiconductor. So, and I think these things you also studied in your previous semester, in third semester CMP elective paper. So when the band gap, oh sorry, not band gap, when the energy of the electromagnetic radiation is greater than the band gap, then only what happens? An electron from the valence band will make a transition to the conduction band, right? So this is what happens. So right now we will not look into excitons, but uh, we'll try to understand this optical absorption process. So in order to happen absorption means what? Takes energy. Okay, the semiconductor takes energy from an electromagnetic radiation, and as a result an electron will make a transition from the valence band here to the conduction band, right? So now I'm coming to another slide, which is here. So quantum size effects, optical properties. So optical properties, there are many optical properties which we can study for semiconductor nanoparticles. But in your case, we are just limiting ourselves to optical absorption. And also there are other properties like photoluminescence, then the, cathodoluminescence, etc. But we will not look into those behaviors. uh, Photoluminescence you can study from your previous semester notes, but for your project purpose we'll limit ourselves just to optical absorption or UV visible absorption spectroscopy. So optical absorption results can be obtained from UV visible absorption spectroscopy. Okay. Okay, quantum size effect has significant impact on optical properties of semiconductor nanomaterials. Okay, and for metal, surface plasmon resonance plays an important role. So surface plasmon resonance is not for you; it is for gold nanoparticle group, which I will discuss later with them. But for you, how a semiconductor nanoparticle behaves on optical absorption. Okay. Okay, so quantum size effect in strong quantum confinement regime, the holes and electrons are especially confined, and this leads to formation of discrete energy levels. So yesterday we learned about this thing, this particle in a box model. An electron is confined in a potential well, and therefore it gets discrete energy levels like E1, E2, E3, and E4. Okay, so we learned, and also it gets a discrete density of states with reduction in size. We also discussed these things yesterday. So same thing is written here. And this is the same thing here. This figure corresponds to this. This is the bulk semiconductor. Okay, EG bulk here. If you can see, it's EG bulk. EG means band gap of bulk semiconductor, separation of energy separation of valence and conduction band. And here on the right side, it is the band gap or band structure of the quantum dot. Okay, quantum dot means those nanoparticles which are generally lesser than 10 nanometers. Okay, so as you can see, quantum dots or these very small sized nanoparticles have larger band gap or wider band gap than this corresponding bulk semiconductor material. Okay, so why this happens? Because energy levels of quantum dots or very small semiconductor nanoparticles get quantized. Okay, since energy levels are quantized, therefore they get separate from one another. Okay, they are no more continuous like the bulk semiconductor, they get separated from one another. And this quantization, and also another result for quantization is another reason for this quantization in energy levels is the fewer number of atoms in quantum dots. Fewer means like 100, 200, 150, like those many number of atoms are there in a quantum dot. Okay. So yeah, so there is enhancement or widening of band gap in a quantum dot because there are fewer atoms, and fewer atoms means fewer energy levels, and these fewer energy levels, they also get quantized like this. Okay, this is the enhancement in band gap. And due to this widening or enhancement in band gap, the optical absorption properties in quantum dots vary from bulk materials, vary from the corresponding bulk semiconductor. Like if we consider, because we are working on zinc oxide nanoparticles, we are working on zinc oxide nanoparticles, and if you measure the optical absorption, so for bulk and for nanomaterials, this you will see difference in optical absorption or also the band gap. Okay, I'll come back to that. I hope this is clear. So now semiconductors. Okay, let us read. Let me read. Quantum confinement is most pronounced in semiconductors. Why quantum confinement is most pronounced in semiconductors? Because semiconductors have distinct valence band and conduction band. Okay, because energy band gap is there only in semiconductors. In metals, there are no energy gaps, energy bands. Why? Because metals have a lot of conduction electrons, and therefore their energy levels of these electrons or charge carriers, they overlap with one another, and therefore there is no band gap. Okay, but in semiconductors, this is not the case. Semiconductors have much less number of electrons or charge carriers, electrons, or it can be holes as well. Therefore, we should call it charge carriers. Okay, they have limited number of charge carriers, and with limited number of charge carriers, they have like distinct valence band and conduction band. And since their valence and conduction bands are distinct, therefore there is a band gap between the valence and conduction band. Okay. Therefore, this quantum confinement effect, quantum confinement, what is the result of quantum confinement? Band gap widening or band gap increase. Okay. Or band gap enhancement, whatever you can call. You can call in all three languages: band gap widening, band gap increase, band gap enhancement. Okay. So I think you also have in your regular course, right? What is band gap widening and what is blue shift? Okay. In your regular course also this concept is there, and the notes are also with you. Okay. Since the band gap of semiconductor increases with decreasing size, okay, band gap increases with decreasing size. So why we have already learned here in this particular figure, or here also, this is also same. So this figure is better. So I am discussing this. This is also good. This is also good. Okay. Since the band gap of semiconductor increases with decreasing size, this results in interband transitions shifting to higher energies or lower wavelength. Okay, so I will come back to this particular point in the next slide. Both absorption and luminescence peak positions shift to higher energy as the particle size is reduced. Okay, so I will come back to examples for this part, this last two lines. Okay. So anyway, you should remember that with decrease in semiconductor particle size, the band gap increases. And if band gap increases, we know band gap is Eg. Eg is the band gap, and band gap is inversely proportional to the wavelength of absorption. Therefore, the wavelength of absorption becomes lower. lower wavelength of absorption corresponds to higher energy. Okay, I hope this is clear. Of course, yeah, this slide is important. So let me make it to a full screen. Yeah, now it looks better. Okay, so here what we have shown band gap and absorption. We have shown two different suppose quantum dots, and they have different band gaps. Okay, one quantum dot has, so these are discrete energy levels in the valence band, conduction band, valence band, conduction band. Okay, and the first semiconductor has a band gap of E1, and the second semiconductor has a band gap of E2. Okay, so now both are semiconductor quantum dots or semiconductor nanoparticles. So now what is the case? Here, as we can see, E2 is greater. Okay, the E2 band gap is greater than E1 band gap. Okay, so what happens with that? Because this is clear, both are quantum dots, no doubt. Maybe this is of 20 nanometer of size, and this is of suppose 5 nanometer of size. Okay, 20 or maybe 15 or whatever you assume, and this is 5 nanometer. And we have learned that with decrease in particle size, the band gap increases. Okay, so here a little bit of equations we have played with. So E2 is greater than E1. E2, as you can see from the figure. So E2, how we can express it in terms of frequency? H nu 2 from Planck's equation of energy. Okay, H nu 2. H nu 2 is greater than H nu 1, which is E1, and which is equal to Hc by lambda 2. Okay, because nu frequency is c by lambda. C is the speed of light and lambda is the wavelength. So Hc by lambda 2 is greater than Hc by lambda 1. Okay, now if this is the case, if Hc by lambda 2 is greater than Hc by lambda 1, then what is the result? The result is lambda 1 will be longer than lambda 2, because you see they are in the denominator. So lambda 1 is greater than lambda 2. Okay, so what you understood? If the band gap or energy separation is greater, the absorption wavelength will be smaller. Okay, E2 is greater, therefore lambda 2, the absorption wavelength will be smaller. So you understood this? Very important concept when you are working with semiconductor nanoparticles. Similarly, E1, it has a lower band gap than E2. It is a lower value than E2. That means what? The corresponding wavelength of absorption lambda 1 will be longer than lambda 2. Lambda 2 is the wavelength of this absorption, and lambda 1 is the wavelength of this particular absorption. Okay. Okay, so I hope you understood this. So the line here, therefore, with band gap increase, wavelength decreases. This results in blue shift. Okay, with band gap increase, band gap is increasing, therefore wavelength decreases. So E2 increase, E2 is having a higher value than E1, therefore lambda 2 is having a smaller value than lambda 1, and this results in blue shift. Let us now, I hope this figure is clear to you. Now let us understand what is blue shift. So wavelength decrease means blue shift. Okay, wavelength decreases as we have written here, that means it is a blue shift. So let us understand why we call it blue shift. To understand the blue shift, you have to check this electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, electromagnetic spectrum has many different waves and wavelengths, like starting from very small gamma rays to like this short rays and so on. And the visible light or the visible colors are in a very narrow region of this spectrum. Okay. So all these colors or waves are not seen by us, like X-rays, UV rays. We cannot see them with our eyes, like infrared, microwave, then TV wave and the short wave. So these waves we cannot see with our eyes. We can see only the colors. No, we can see the blue color. We can see green color. We can see this what is yellow color. We can see orange. We can see red. These colors we can see with our eyes. Okay, and that's why this very narrow portion of this electromagnetic spectrum comprises the visible region of the electromagnetic spectrum, which you can see here. And the wavelength of this visible region is from 390 to around 800 nanometers. Okay, so starting from 390 here to 800. So VIBGYOR, no, VIBGYOR, you know, violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. So starting from violet, it is somewhere red here. Okay. So what is blue shift that we discussed in this? So here, what is blue shift, which we discussed in the previous slide? Blue shift means where is blue in the spectrum in the UV region? It is towards left, or blue means it is towards the lower or shorter wavelengths. So you see, blue is having some wavelength at around 440 nanometers in the visible region, right? And what is the opposite of blue shift? That is red shift. Red shift means something having longer wavelength. So you try to understand from here, blue shift happens with decrease in particle size and increase in band gap. Red shift happens with increase in particle size but with decrease in band gap. Okay, so now you understand more or less why we call it blue shift, or in the opposite sense why we may call it red shift. Blue means shifting towards lower or shorter wavelength, or when lambda is smaller, lambda is shorter. And red means where lambda is longer or lambda is having a larger value. Okay, so blue shift happens with small particles, red shift happens with larger particles. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. Now I will show you some this particular slide. So I think this particular slide was given to whom? It was given to one of the zinc oxide groups. Okay, so this is our own result. I mean, like, it is actually my own result from zinc oxide when I did some work on zinc oxide nanostructures. So here, bulk plus 5 hour. Bulk is the blue black plot in origin, and the 5 hour is the red plot, the nano. 5 hour means it is just the reaction time. Okay. Okay, so when I'm talking about reaction time, so you can note down one thing. So the reaction which we did in the laboratory before lockdown, those were bottom-up chemical reaction. Okay, and here the result which I am showing, it is from a top-down reaction. So in top-down reaction, the higher is the reaction time, smaller will be the particles, because in top-down we know we keep on crashing or grinding. So that crashing, continuous crashing or grinding will result in very small size particles. Okay, but in bottom up means the chemical reactions. So top down reactions are done by physical method, and bottom up reactions which we did in our laboratory before the lockdown, bottom up reactions, what happens? So with increasing reaction time, the particle size will continue to increase. So that's the difference you should remember. Therefore I told you, when, if you remember, during the synthesis days, so we will start with smaller to very large particles. Smaller means our reaction time will be as low as 10 minutes to as high as 60 minutes. So in our case, which is the bottom up reaction approach, so 10 minutes of reaction will give you a smaller particle, and 1 hour of reaction time will give you larger particles. Okay, and as opposed to this top-down approach, the results of which have been shown here. So in this case, higher reaction time, since this is a top-down approach, higher reaction time will result in smaller size particles than shorter reaction time. Okay. So top-down and bottom-up approaches, I think you have the notes from our regular course, regular CMP course. You can revise that once. Of course, you have to study for your final exam, but you can revise that once also. Okay, so let me explain these two absorption peaks. So these are zinc oxide nanostructure absorption spectra. This red one is for nanostructure, and this black one is for bulk structure. Okay, one thing you should know, because the external may ask you one question. The question is, if this is a bulk sample you are measuring, then why are you getting a very intense or sharp peak here at 378 nanometer? Okay, why you see a sharp 378 nanometer peak if you are doing a bulk measurement? So what will be your answer for this? Why I am asking you? Because for a bulk sample, generally we don't see such a strong absorption peak. It is something very broad, and it does not have a very particular shape. So why are we seeing a like sharp absorption peak here? You remember this, okay? Because this may be a question when you will present this particular data for your thesis viva. So you might be asked this question. So the reason is, although bulk, but this sample is particular a micropowder sample. Okay, micropowder means there are zinc oxide particles which are maybe like 200 microns, 300 or 500 microns. That means they are still very small. Okay, small, and they are almost of uniform size, because this is a commercially, this bulk is a commercially available powder. Okay, so they, since this is commercially available, they made the quality very nice. The quality of this powder is very good, and they are actually microparticles or microstructures. Micro zinc oxide structures are there, and that's why, although we are calling it as a bulk, but there it is showing a very sharp intense peak at around 378 nanometers. Okay, although generally bulk samples where we don't have microparticles but very bulk zinc oxide structures and so on, in that case we cannot see such strong or intense peaks. Okay, we'll see something broad or something which does not have very pronounced shape like that. Anyway, I could not get those type of samples, so I could not present that data, but I had this commercial sample and we have this. Okay. Okay, next is this 5-hour reaction. I mean, this particular rate plot. So in this particular rate plot, when we got the absorption peak means the position where the intensity of absorption is the maximum. Okay, so it is maximum at around, for this nanoparticle and nanostructure, it is maximum at around 365 nanometer. Whereas for this bulk, it is maximum at around 378 nanometers. So see, for the nanostructures, the absorption peak is at a lower wavelength. Nanostructure at a lower wavelength than bulk structure at 378. Okay. So what we can say, it is blue shifted. The absorption peak for the nanostructure is what? Blue shifted, right? You understood this? I hope you understood this concept. And so we have learned blue shifting. So blue shifting, why blue shifting? Because the wavelength of absorption is smaller. And here for the nanoparticle also, nanostructures also, the wavelength of absorption is smaller at 365 nanometers than this 378 nanometers. Okay, and this dotted line has been drawn to show you the shift, no, because the dotted line is far away from this peak. but the dotted line is made to pass through this particular peak, which appears at 365 nanometer of the plot. Okay, so this peak is clearly blue shifted as compared to the bulk material. Okay, so I hope you understand now what is the concept of blue shifting. And once you have found this absorption wavelength from this particular formula, E2 is equal to hc by lambda 2, or again E1 is equal to hc by lambda 1, or in general E equal to hc by lambda, you can calculate the band gap. Okay, and if you can calculate the band gap, which band gap will be larger? The band gap for the nanostructures will be larger than the bulk band gap. Okay, and if you want to see the band gap values which has been given, uh, in your thesis. Okay, we discussed such figures, mainly zinc oxide groups, and there we have separately shown how you can calculate the band gap or approximate band gap of these nanostructures and the bulk structures. Okay, so band gap calculation formula is very simple. Eg is equal to 1240 divided by 365. Okay, 1240 divided by 365. If I can calculate quickly on my mobile, so 1240 divided by 365 means it is almost 3.4 electron volt. So the nanostructures have a band gap of 3.4 electron volt, and for the bulk, if it is 1240 divided by 378, so it is 3.28. So for the bulk, the band gap is around 3.28 electron volt, but for the nanostructures, the band gap is around 3.4 electron volt. Therefore, you can see that for the nanostructures, the band gap is increasing by 0.12 electron volt, and which is nothing but this particular figure here. This band gap is increasing. Okay, so its wavelength of absorption is lower, but band gap is higher. Similarly, this wavelength of absorption is longer, therefore the band gap is smaller. Okay, I hope this particular figure is clear to you. So this one I took from some journal, and here also the blue shift has been shown. So this red, green, and blue, three peaks. So 5 nanometer zinc oxide particle, you see it is blue shifted. 10 nanometer zinc oxide nanoparticle, it is the green one in the middle. And for bulk zinc oxide, it is the maximum value. Okay, bulk zinc oxide, it is blue. Then the 10 nanometer, if you are reducing the size to 10 nanometer zinc oxide particles, so it gets blue shifted. And when we are having 5 nanometer zinc oxide nanoparticles, they are furthermore blue shifted. Okay, so this is the concept of blue shifting. And then we have surface plasmon resonance, which is not your topic. So I think we can conclude here today about these optical properties, and I hope this has been clear to you. And in the next class, we will discuss about X-ray diffraction. Okay.